Welcome back. So I'm going to show you the next step on how I complete these applique flowers. And I finished this one yesterday. I think last week I talked to you about how when I do the first one of anything, I'm really engaged in the creative process and designing and making the design choices about what colors and fabrics and beads I use. When I have to repeat something, I get really bored and it's a real struggle. And that's been the case again with this one here. I'm just going to trim the edges while I'm talking to you a little bit. And I finished this yesterday and I was rushing. I just wanted to get it over and done with. I wanted it, I had two petals to go to complete. I've been procrastinating and doing more interesting new creative projects. But I had to go back and finish it because it's just a part of the process. So today's video is going to be about two things. I thought I was rushing and it's like, oh, let's just get this done. And then I thought, no, stop, because I'll share with you guys exactly how I cut out and how I use these in my garments. So the first thing is I worked on silk organza as my base. That's generally what I will do because I personally think it's the best base ever for all sorts of things. And because we use it in couture a lot. So I am now just cutting around. I've taken it out of the frame and I'm very carefully cutting a very small edge. So 1 or 2 mils. Basically, I'm getting as close to the edge of my stitching as I can, leaving a tiny little bit of seam allowance and trying not to cut any of my embroidery threads along the way. And with this mark making style of embroidery, I sometimes when I relaxed, I was getting very free and easy. I did calm myself down and try and keep things a little bit more restrained around the edges because I knew I had to cut it out. But if I had been doing this kind of stitching on an already background that wasn't going to be cut out, I'd have gone a lot wilder. So here I'm just going to trim a little bit more because I don't want to see a lot of that fabric, but we need a tiny bit of seam allowance because we can't cut right up. So then we've got this little bit of a seam allowance, and one of the tricks I use for hiding that is I use a Copic marker. I like this end and I'll just go around the edge of it so it just colors that fabric to the same color or a similar color as what I have done my embroidery in. We'll give that a chance to dry, and sometimes I'll just go around the edge like this. So I just rub along the edge of my embroidery, color matching as best I can, and that will blend things in a little bit. Now I've still got a little bit too much showing around here. So I might go back in and trim a little bit more. This first one was much better. I was much closer with my cutting. Let's see if I can show you this technique here because this one's good because it will just blend that little bit of color. This was also done on a slightly different color of organza because I just pulled the scraps out of my scrap box to use as my base. But it just softens that stark edge and blends things in. So hopefully that is a helpful technique. And yeah, I was listening to, oops, what's gone wrong with let's swap cameras. I was listening to podcast or watching something, I can't remember. And there was this beautiful 81-year-old lady artisan talking about her career. And she said exactly the same as me, that the first one's great fun and she never repeats anything. I was like, oh, thank God I'm not alone, because something I'm learning just now in my 50s is that things I've judged myself for as an artisan and as a human are actually quite common. And that's again one of the reasons I started the Patreon community, so that we can join together and talk and
and communicate and normalize our experience. Um, because I thought that was wrong and bad, and that I needed to grow up and, you know, get that in hand and be responsible. Of course, if you're doing a garment, you have to have one on each side. And it really helped me hearing this beautiful, wise older woman say that no, she just doesn't like it, so she doesn't do it, and she's never done it. It's like, great, I don't have to work on myself, you know? There are certain things we all have to do that we don't like to do. But I think discovering our artistic ways of being, our ways of working, you know, like whether you're a morning person or an evening person or an afternoon person, working out when your creative juices are flowing the best and when it feels best for you to work or teach. All of those, you know, it's like a fact finding information through our whole lifetime. And for me, it's just learning to embrace those authentic aspects of ourselves in our creative journey instead of trying to fit myself into a way of being that's just not authentic to me. So I haven't got much more to say today. That's just what I've been reflecting on, finding that balance between doing what's necessary in your artistic practice and being responsible around that, not skipping those, you know, like dressing the frame properly for embroidery has to be done before you can start the actual bit. Repeating the second side has to be done so that you've got two sides of your bodice. Um, versus just being authentic and working with accepting and understanding yourself and your what works for you and what doesn't and not judging it is another beautiful step towards embracing your artistic self. And I mentioned last week and then I forgot to show you, but I did move on to a new project. Now I have been experimenting with Canadian smocking. I hope you can see that a little bit clearly. It's black, so it doesn't read terribly well. But that was my little sample. I'm working on a black crepe fabric and I've just done a bodice. And now I'm going to drape it into, I don't know what yet, the bodice of a dress, but I'm not quite sure what my next step is. But I was judging myself. All this judgment, honestly, it's just such a waste of creative energy because I did this little sample. The fabric arrived. It's like, oh yeah, I've just got to sample. I'm not going to start the garment, you know, I'm just going to sample. And then of course I fell in love with the sample because the fabric just smocked up beautifully. It was like, ooh, I have got to start that. So then I did my first row, then I had to continue, then I had to do the side pleats, and then I had to put it on the mannequin. It's like, oh, okay. So while I was engaging in that work last week, I was not finishing this off. I was picking up in between students and doing little bits, but it was a real chore because I'm over this bit and I just wanted to move on to this bit. But I have come back and I have finished it. And now this afternoon I will put this on hold and I will actually take the next step in this so that that's a work in progress as well. Look, I'm a Gemini, so I do multiple things. I have an occasional student who does one project at a time and finishes it. And as they're getting towards the end, I'll say, so what's next? You know, let's start planning. And they go, oh no, Crystal, I can't possibly think about that until I finish this. As for me, I've got the next 10 projects lined up and possibly started as well. Um, yeah. So I think this is like confession time for me today. Like releasing judgment, embracing what is, but still being, you know, a responsible, creative artist adult and coming back and finishing the things that bore us shitless, to be frank, when all we really want to do is play with our shiny new design idea. But I think that's all part of living the creative life. So, from my heart to yours, release judgment, honor your creative, artistic rhythms, and unique ways of being. Until next time, I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.